Welcome to the Startup Funding Espresso. I'm Hall T. Martin, where we talk about how to raise funding and invest in startups and the time it takes to drink an espresso. If you have a question about startup funding or investing, please go to the website, startupfundingespresso.com, and type in your question into the chat bot in the lower right corner to receive an answer. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hello, this is Hall T. Martin with the Startup Funding Espresso, your daily shot of startup funding and investing. Strategic investors are large companies that use startup investments to further their business objectives. They rarely invest to make a financial return. They fund startups to stay abreast of new technologies and markets. They often invest in advance of buying the startup. To close a strategic investor funding, consider the following. The investor doesn't care about the market size, competitor analysis, or go-to-market. They care about furthering their own strategic goals. Align the presentation with how the startup will help them reach their objectives. Focus the effort on building products and testing markets that are important to the strategic, and use these tools to gain an introduction to the key people at the strategic and their priorities. Point out the key value propositions of the startup and where they should look for entry points into the market. Identify the key decision makers and keep them informed of your progress. And be patient with the corporate process, as it will take time. There's typically a small number of people focused on funding startups at their company, so don't expect significant resource commitments. Consider these steps in closing a funding round from a strategic corporate partner. Thank you for joining us for the Startup Funding Espresso, where we help startups and investors connect for funding. Let's go start us into today. Hall T. Martin is the director of Investor Connect, which is a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to the education of investors for early stage funding. All opinions expressed by Hall and podcast guests are solely their own opinions and do not reflect the opinion of Investor Connect. This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be relied upon as a basis for investment decisions.